Hello and welcome! Silrace here with Mechwarrior Online. And this is the Panther guide. As usual for my guide videos, I will first talk about the chassis in general and then talk about the specific variants. Couple things to note first. Background footage is from when I was leveling the Panther's pilot skills still. There should be no footage there with elite pilot skills unlocked. Because I want to show that the chassis is playable even with just its basics, or even without the basics in some cases. And the other thing to note is that I am on the permanent basis in community warfare with the clans, so I have fought Panthers, but I cannot play a Panther myself in community warfare. Just something to know. So let's move on to the chassis itself. Weaknesses of the Panther is that it is a 35-ton light mech. So it competes directly in weight class with something like a Firestarter. And if you are looking for power, there is basically only one thing in which the Panther can outdo the Firestarter, and that might be long-range fire support thanks to some of the quirks. But if you are really looking for the most powerful light mech, you can go back to your Firestarter, the door is that way, and keep playing your Firestarter. Anyway, the Panther itself has some nasty weaknesses to it. The engine cap, max engine rating you can mount on a Panther is 250 rated. So that means that even with speed tweak, if we compare it to a Firestarter with maxed engine and a speed tweak, well, with or without speed tweaks, the Panther still runs 10 kph slower at minimum than the freaking Firestarter. So the Panther is the slowest of the inner sphere light mechs around. The other thing to note about the Panther is that the right arm is where all the big guns are going to be. That's where all the energy hard points on the Panther will be located, on the right arm, on every single variant. So if someone shares off that right arm, then the damage is pretty much gutted. Panthers have missile hardpoints in the center torso. One variant has one and two variants have two. That means that you can mount missiles in the center torso. While you could put in an LRM-5 or some short-range missile rack there, it just isn't enough firepower to really save the mech once that right arm is gone.
Target acquired.
Some strengths though, I can't say that the hitboxes are absolutely stellar, but they aren't massively awful either, so far from all my testing. So I can't really say that they will make this mech better than it appears, but they are workable. I'll just put it that way, they're workable. Nice thing though is that the left arm is always empty on Panther. That gives it an absolute shield arm, and all the armor you want to shave off to get to the nearest half ton or nearest ton, you can shave the armor of the left arm without sacrificing head or leg armor on a light mech, which is kinda nice. So it can use an arm for shielding. Although obviously it cannot use the right arm, but it can use the left. And those center torso mounted missile hardpoints are a nice little addition. It actually gives some possibilities of running Panther with a standard engine, because you know you are going to be slower than all the other light mechs anyways, and you are very likely to mount a longer range fire support weapon where you don't quite need the same speed. When you go to your builders and whatnot, check the weight difference between a standard 200 and an XL 250 engine, just for some funsies. I ran it quite a bit with a standard 200 engine myself, with a missile hardpoint used for short-range missiles and the usual energy weapons, and I actually found it to be not bad at all. It worked almost similar than it does with an XL 250, except I didn't die once the shoulder was blown up. So yeah, there is that. Let's move on to the actual variants themselves, shall we? Starting with the 10K variant, which really harkens back to the tabletop, where the most common Panther variant, at least I saw, was the one with the PPC, where you bring a light mech with a big gun for fire support. Because the 10K received very good quirks for er-ppc specifically, then received on top of that some generic energy quirks and generic missile quirks, because it has 2 missile slots in the center torso and 2 energy hardpoints in the right arm. I've seen many of these which, well, sacrifice a little on the engine department and leave the missiles out and put 2 er-ppcs in the arm, and while I agree that can be effective, I personally have lost that arm too often to not go with missiles in the torso. And note that the 10K defaults to having Artemis, so there is that as well, if you want to make use of the Artemis. Personally, I downgraded after a couple games and mounted a regular, well, short-range missile rack there to have a missile weapon, but not have it take all that much tonnage. So yeah. And you could try long-range missiles on that center torso, because it has 10 and 5 tubes, so I tried an LRM-5 for a bit, for a couple games, but I just wasn't feeling a single LRM-5 rack in addition to an er-ppc. Just didn't feel right to me, so I just went back to the, you know, SRM, er-ppc, and then I tried out a couple other things to accompany that er-ppc, such as a small pulse laser or a small laser, because you have easily the tonnage to add in a little tiny weapon to complement the short-range missile rack for when things get close, because if another light mech really wants you, well, there is not much you can do, because you cannot outrun the other light mechs. Another thing to note about the 10K is that it has capability of mounting 2 AMS. So you could technically put 2 AMS on it and then just hang around with your team, have a party, and shoot down all the missiles. You know, for your team, because not everyone carries an AMS these days, so you could carry the AMS of 2 mechs. That is very, very nice. Moving on to the 9R variant, which has received some interesting and weird quirk setup. It has still the same layout of the Panther, only 1 missile hardpoint in the center torso in this one, AMS if you wanna mount it, and 4 energy hardpoints in that right arm. Quirk-wise, it got ppc velocity, generic energy quirks, laser duration quirk, and generic missile quirks. So because of that ppc velocity, I first tried a ppc on it obviously, but I started wearing off that ppc because it does not have ppc cooldown nor a ppc specific heat generation. So what I moved on was to make it a laser thing. Firstly I mounted 4 medium pulse lasers and tried that out, and then I mounted a large pulse laser with few medium lasers and kept a small SRM rack in the center torso for once that arm is gone. In this case I went with an SRM-2 and only half-ton ammo for it. And that actually paid off in multiple places, having that SRM rack in the center torso, which is kind of funny in itself that it's only an SRM-2. But I could definitely see you completely skipping the missile hardpoint on this variant, because it has so many energy hardpoints and so many energy specific quirks, as in generic quirks, not specific, but specific to the energy, and that's it. So you could definitely go with 4 medium pulse lasers and just run around and pretend that you are an actual light mech without, you know, long-range fire support capability, but you are still the slowest light mech around, just something to keep in mind. And finally we have the 8Z variant, which to me was the easiest to build and never change again, because it works. So quirks-wise, the 8Z received large laser specific quirks, as well as generic energy quirks and generic missile quirks. It has 3 energy hardpoints in the right arm and 2 missile hardpoints in the center torso, as well as an AMS if you want to mount that. But you can easily mount 2 large lasers with a maxed out engine, XL engine in this case, on the Panther and have some tonnage to spare on top of it. So this was really easy to build, and figure out. And on top of those, I just went for the missile rack in the center torso. You could definitely mount an extra laser into the arm with the 2 large lasers and it's like a medium laser or something. And I also tried it with a smaller engine and smacking in 3 large lasers, but that thing just overheats so much and so fast that it just, to me, was not doable. Especially without having elites not yet done. But you can definitely try that variety of it out. I just found it very easy to work with 2 large lasers and a missile rack in the center torso. That worked out very well for me. Now I'm done with the Panther guide. Hopefully this helped you out figuring what to do with your Panthers and whatnot. And if you want to actually get your hands on these things. Thank you very much for watching.